There you go. All right, guys. Here we are. We got Sammy over here on the right. How long you been doing this for, Sammy?
Been driving big truck for about 28 years. Started this about 3 months ago.
So you've seen it all. You went from paper log to ELD to government looking over your shoulder to what you're doing now.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. Then we got Chris over here on the left. How long you been doing it, Chris?
I've been doing it since November.
Okay. All right. So we're going to give y'all two perspectives here. Sammy's going to explain to y'all the logbook. Chris is going to give you, ask Sammy questions. Questions y'all may have, questions y'all may not have had, whatever. But hopefully we can answer questions on how to log and everything like that, because I know when I started I didn't know a whole lot about it, and I don't think Chris did either when he first came on. And
they don't touch on it enough at all when you go to orientation.
yes, and that was mine and Chris's biggest complaint when we came up here. And so we've actually relied on Sammy a whole lot to kind of show us the ropes of the logbook.
My answers will be legal. I will not play silly ass games. It's going to be legal.
So, well, there you go. Well, I guess the first most question is, what is the logbook?
Yeah. Pretty simple. It's just a log of your daily activity. I mean, you got, your dates.
Let me hand you your.
You got your dates, trailer number, truck number, all on this wonderful little sheet. You've got off duty, sleeper, driving, on duty, not driving. I call them lines 1, 2, 3, 4, and look, it's even numbered that way.
And we're going to do a close up. We're going to actually fill one out and do a close up of it, of Sammy kind of pointing out what.
Oh crap! I got to do that in real life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you're going to fill it out. You're going to fill it out off camera and then just kind of point to your day during the day. So yeah.
But, I mean, in reality, it's just it's a log of what you do during the day. That's all it is.
All right, so we got these different rules and stuff a lot of people talk about. You got your 70-hour clock, your 14-hour clock, your 11-hour clock, 30 minutes of this, 15 minutes of that, 16 minutes here and there. And so you want to, I guess let's just start with the 70 clock and work our way down to the 14 to the 11, the 30-minute break and stuff like that. And then, just insert question here, Chris, if you come across something that, I mean, now you've got a little bit of experience with the logbook, but what you would have had a question about, what you would have had a question about back in November when he says something, what you would have had a question about, that's now answered because you've been doing it a little bit, but, just kind of help people just starting out.
Part-timer over here.
Yeah, part-time, yeah.
Part-time.
Just so y'all know about part-time, he came out for 2 weeks and went home for 6 months, so.
Okay, it's what, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that.
It was
3 weeks, okay, 3 weeks.
Christmas, New Year's.
Hours of service.
No.
In reality, when you run something on your logbook, you've got hours over here that you use during that day. They add up over 8 days.
And that's your 70-hour, correct? That's the 70 hours of the thing.
If you'll let me finish, I'll finish that. In 8 days, you have 70 hours by most rules, most companies. There is another one, but I'm not going to go into that. It's not worth it.
There is a caveat to that. There is a Canadian logbook if you run Canadian or go to Canada. We're not covering that at all, so don't even ask.
And before you ask, there's also a 7-day, 60-hour, but we're not going into that because as it applies to us, it's 8-day, 70-hour. And basically it's 8 of these, line 3 and 4, whatever they total for 8 days. If it equals more than 70, you're in violation. I mean, I don't know, is there anything, I don't know what else to say there personally. It's, I don't know, it's kind of like breathing to me, but to you it may not be.
I mean, I can't really think of anything that I got tripped up on with like the 70-hour thing. I kind of understood the whole 70 hours in an 8-day period, don't exceed it. It's when it starts getting into when you got to do your breaks and stuff like that is what kind of trips me up the most. I think what trips people up the most.
So I guess we're going to have more questions on the 14 hours in a day, the 11 hours of drive time, and the 30-minute
Actually,
break.
there is something about. Oh yeah, so we're only on the 7 days, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're only on the 70-hour
I got some good
line
questions for
thing.
the 14 hours in a day thing.
Yeah, well, that's actually going to be the next.
Realistically, the biggest thing to remember is it is line 3 and 4, driving and on duty, not driving. Those added up over 8 days. We are planning to do a.
We're going to do a
video.
recap. Yeah.
Okay,
Later
so
on.
for recap, we're going to do another video on that at another time. But that's the basics of it. So that's the 70-hour rule in general. Don't go over 70 in 8 days.
Now you got so we got 14 hours in a day that we can do work in straight. Does not matter when, who, what, when, where, 8 to 5, whatever it is. But you have 14 hours in a day.
Okay.
So if you want to
Got
cover
any questions there before I start that?
I would say the biggest thing that a lot of people probably won't know is that they'll kind of think that, you know, once you may start driving, you have that 14 hours to do your 11 hours of driving in. Now, once you go on duty is when you have that. So my question would be to you is once you go on duty and you do, you know, say you do X, Y, and Z, like you got to do a pre-trip and you're getting your fuel and you're doing that. Now from that starts cutting into your driving now. So you, like say you have, let's say you have an 11-hour driving day. So I guess my question would be, if I had 4 hours of on-duty time before I even began driving my vehicle, would I still have an 11-hour driving day?
No, not 4 hours.
No, you'd only have a 10-hour.
Your on-duty time, your 14-hour rule starts as soon as you start your book. So when you go on duty in the morning and do a pre-trip inspection for whatever your company requires, some may require 15, some may require 30. You've only got 14 hours from that point when you started to do everything you're going to do that day. However, there is a little bit of a catch in there. It's driving. It's not on duty time. You can be on duty for an eternity. It does not matter. You are not in violation until you go to line 3 and you start driving. So in essence, if you started at 8 o'clock in the morning and you sit there for 14 hours for whatever reason, and at that point you can't drive anymore.
You legally couldn't drive because you've spent your 14 hours on duty,
14,
and you can't continue on because your 14 is now done, requiring
Correct.
the next thing that we're going to talk about in the video, which would be 10 hours.
But the 14 is that. I mean, it's when you start to when you stop, it's 14 hours. That's what you got for everything you're going to do in that day.
And another thing to that is pay attention to where your company has you set up in the logbook as well. Because whether you live in Central, Mountain, Pacific, or whatever, the company we currently work for is in Eastern time. So you have to keep that. 10 hours is 10 hours, but it's a lot easier if you can keep
You're right.
a clock on a watch, your radio clock in your truck, something like that on Eastern time, so you know and you're not getting confused. And I only say that because the first time we went to Shaky, I got confused with the swapping of the time, and this last time I went, I actually kept myself on Eastern time, and it
Okay,
worked
I
out
logged
better.
the first trip to Shaky, and he logged the second trip to Shaky, and it got interesting. Anyway, he's right. Every company, for instance, if a company has you working out of a terminal in Atlanta, Georgia, it's going to be on Eastern time. If a company has you working out of a terminal in Nashville, Tennessee, that's on Central time. If you're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that's Mountain time. If you're in LA, that's Pacific time. Whatever terminal you work out of is the time zone you work on. It doesn't matter what time zone you live in. it only matters what terminal you work out of. That is what you log on that time. End of story. That's what DOT goes on. Time zones do not matter as far as your logbook. What does matter is delivery times, etc., but that's local time. You still have to deal with your own time zone.
So any other questions for you from the new side? I mean, I'm not that much more into it than you are.
14-hour day.
You know, well, hang on a minute. How much experience you got, Chris?
Oh, I just started back in October.
Okay, so.
Well, yeah, I know.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
you throwed him under the bus. We're going to throw your ass under the bus, too.
All right, so 11 hours of drive time. Now, you can get on and off that line. You have 11 hours to drive within the 14 hours, correct?
Correct.
So, but if I stop to go to the bathroom, I don't have to stay on drive time, do I?
No.
So,
What would you do? If you stopped to go to the bathroom, what would you do? And let's step back to when you started. What would you think?
When I first started, if I stopped to go to the bathroom, I would just log myself off duty,
see,
Why?
so I wouldn't chew into my drive time.
When you very first started, you would have done it that way?
Yep.
see, I would have went on duty. That's what I would have done when I first started. If I
Okay.
get out there to the rest area and go to the bathroom, or go inside to get lunch or something, I would not get off duty, because the way it was explained to me, or the way I took it, was once you start your own duty, you're on duty until your 14 hours is done. So I would have went on duty, not
But
driving.
the thing is, even if you go off duty,
It
in
still
that
counts.
period, it counts out of your 14 hours.
Correct.
But it doesn't
Off
count
duty
out of
does
your.
not.
You're still in that 14-hour window, though. So you're gonna have,
Yes.
you won't have that 14 hours.
But what it does-
So if you go on a 30-minute break, or if you say you
Okay.
take 15 minutes to go to the bathroom at the rest area, and you log off the drive line, you're on off-duty time now because you got to run in and go to the restroom. Well, once you come back out and you go back on duty, if you notice, that 15 minutes is going to be taken out of your 14-hour day. But
y'all-
that 15 minutes will not be taken out of your 11 hours of drive time. And that is something that I struggled with at first, was I figured if I went off duty, it wasn't going to chew into my 14 or my 11. But it does affect your 14-hour day, because once he said it earlier, as soon as you go on duty, you have 14 hours from that point to do your entire day, whether you hit 11 hours of driving or whether you hit 7 hours of driving. It all comes into that 14.
Okay. A couple of things that I've heard people say since I've been in the RV industry. They either won't log anything, they'll just stop and leave it on line 3, which is the worst thing you can possibly do on the face of the earth. A lot of them will go on duty if they do anything at all. Truth be told, you need to go off duty. We log in 15-minute increments where we're at. Your company may be different, but ours is 15-minute increments.
Which can be a pain in the butt.
But it can help you at the
It
same
can help you
time.
At the same time.
And we're not going into that at this moment. But at any rate, get off duty. Get off of that drive clock when you're not driving.
I do have some I can put in once you're finished.
Okay. Never go to line 4 unless you're doing something with the truck, the trailer work. If it's not work involved, you never go to line 4, and you never, ever leave it on line 3 to walk in and go to take a bathroom break, whatever, grab food, whatever it is you're doing. You get off of line 3 and 4, which is driving or on duty, not driving. You get off those lines, they're the ones that kind of get your 70. Okay, what's your question?
So basically, say, I'll go ahead and play I just started today and I gotta stop at the rest area. So what you're telling me is if I stop and do a 15-minute break, because I gotta go to the restroom and I wanna buy a drink out of the vending machine and go back to my truck, stretch my legs, whatever. If I do that at on duty time, does that also chew out on my 70 for the week?
It hurts your 70, it hurts your 14. So, I mean, it's a crazy idea to do that.
But the 14 doesn't matter. Once you start, the 14 starts.
The
Whether you're
14
on-
starts regardless.
But by getting off duty, you're keeping from chewing into your 8-day, 70-hour clock.
Correct.
And also,
So if you're not fueling, you're not delivering, you're not pre-tripping, you're not post-tripping, you're not doing anything that has to do with that truck or trailer, get off 3 and 4.
Get off 3 and 4.
and I will
You
tell
are
you,
not-
I think it's only 15 minutes, but
15
this
minutes.
gentleman right here taught me that 15 minutes or 30 minutes, when you start thinking about it, you start thinking about it on an 8-day period. If you do 15 to 30 minutes a day, you can do the math on that. That adds up real quick.
Well, I'll tell you.
Even on a 14-hour day, 15 minutes could be the difference of you staying in a truck stop you didn't want to stay at, or you making it to your actual destination that you wanted to make it to that day.
Trip planning is the most important part of all of this.
Still trying to learn that.
That
I'm being honest, man.
Yeah.
I do the best that I can, but dude, it
And
can
in your
get
trip-
tough. It can get very tough.
And in your trip planning, you need to plan your fuel stops and try to work fuel stops in for when you shut down for the night.
it's
So
not,
that's-
it's not always that easy. I mean,
It was.
if you can combine stuff, but that's in the next video. We're dealing with
Yeah.
basic
I would do that
stuff.
when you guys do your recaps and stuff like that, because when you start talking about saving time on breaks with fuel in between, because you
Yeah.
can split them in half, that gets confusing.
Yeah, I mean, basics though is stay off of line 3 and 4. As a general rule, all of us are in standard pickup trucks. We do not have a sleeper. We do not have anything special. We're not in sleeper berths, so we cannot utilize sleeper berths. We are not going to go into that simply for that reason, because this is not for big trucks. I drove big trucks 28 years. I know the damn deal with it, but it
And honestly,
doesn't
with
apply
most-
to any of
With most
us.
big truck companies, if you're starting out, they're going to do an entire CDL class.
Well, you're going to have 6 weeks with the trainer for a lot of
Hmm.
companies.
You're going to have
I mean,
more
they'll
than,
give you the guidelines of what you need to do. with
it's
the
more
big
than
truck
what
company.
it's more than what I know. My time class was very
But
vague.
let's-
So to
I
say.
mean, a really nice way to put things is the company we work for did not give a logbook class that explained anything realistically. I'm very fortunate. I had a lot of experience. These guys were not.
And we relied on him, and it took a
And-
trip from
And this may be a
Indeed.
silly, goofy video, but hopefully somebody out
Yeah,
there gets
but-
some sort of information out of it.
And it took a whole trip from Indiana to California and back in 70 hours to do that, for me to learn it. So
And for everybody that says it can't be done, it can be done.
I've done it
Legally.
twice this year.
But I mean, the RV industry just is not real good at letting you know what you really can do, what you can't do, and they're not real good at defining the rules. What did I say? 395.6.
Yeah.
The FMCSA book is where your driving guidelines are. There are some things with this industry that is really gray. I'm not going to play games with you. I don't know all the rules. I don't know everything, but there's some really gray areas in there, and there's a lot of guys like to play. And I'm not going to play but so much. Don't be stupid. Don't do anything illegal. I do the best I can to do everything as legal as I possibly can. That's what I've told both of these guys, and that's what I'm going to tell every one of you.
I'll touch on
Do
that.
it legal.
If one of you out there ends up doing this, you're going to have anywhere, you can rent a truck from Enterprise, I'm not going to touch on that, but you're going to have anywhere between, $40,000 to $60,000 tied up inside of a truck. Probably another, if you end up doing fifth wheel bumper pull, get an auxiliary tank, get a toolbox so you can have all your stuff, you're going to have another $3,000 to $4,000 wrapped up in that.
You could
Five.
you could easily tie yourself up with it if you bought a truck and outfitted it completely before you started. You could easily be 75 to 100 grand into this.
So-
but don't let that scare
Yeah,
you,
don't let
because
that
it's
scare you.
it's an awesome
And you
career
make-
field
you
to
can make
be
good
in,
money.
and you can make awesome money. But I think where he was going with this is you don't want that ticket for your
It ain't even about
hours of service.
It ain't even about the ticket for the hours of service. It's just because, I mean, if you get caught, most companies, they're going to tell you straight off the rip, because all companies have what's called a CSA score. Any type of infractions we get as drivers working for that company is going to drop that raise that CSA score up. Gets to a certain amount, DOT comes in, does a full audit, but that's, they could touch on that at a different time. What I'm trying to say is, you have all this money tied up, and I've thought it. I've heard a lot of people say it out loud. I want to get out there and I want to get all these miles in so I can make the most of money like that. It's just going to rack in. I'm going to get, I want to go out there and do $5,000 weeks. Okay, well, it is not worth it to me to go out there and do things illegally so I get popped by DOT and now I lose my job. Now I got a nasty mark. If you have a CDL in your clearinghouse, now a lot of other companies aren't going to want to touch you because of that. All because you wanted to drive an extra hour that day or an extra 2 hours that day, or you wanted to get 100 miles over what you were going to have for that day. It's just not worth it to me. It shouldn't be worth it to anybody out there. It's unsafe.
Not to mention if you wreck the truck.
If you wreck the truck and hurt somebody else, you are screwed. But the whole thing is you can get a lot of miles in legally in a day if you just see what he always says, keep the left door shut. You get in that truck and you drive. I'm not saying get out there in the truck and drive 80 miles an hour with a 40-foot trailer behind you, but you get in that truck, you run the speed limit, or you run what your company says you can run legally for working for that company, and next thing you know, you've done 650, 700 miles legally that day. For myself, that's plenty of miles. I'd like to go take a nap after that. I'm not trying to go out there and do 900,000 miles, I'll tell you right now. But, it's stressful, dude. You got to worry about everybody out there. You need to be alert while you're doing this. That's important.
He touches on some really interesting things, something that he missed that I feel is very important. If you go out there and you're running illegal, I've heard so many guys talk about doing crazy stuff, and you get in a wreck, it's less about DOT and more about attorneys, because they're going to get into your cell phone. They're going to know you ran illegal, and
they're going to check your card statements.
They're going to know everything in a matter of moments. In reality, the truth be told, nowadays time, everything's on computers. They're going to know you can't lie but so damn much. And guess what? You get to meet Bubba. Have fun. Enjoy yourself.
PG-13.
And, realistically, is it worth it? In reality, you got a calculator handy?
Yeah.
In reality, let's play a little game.
Well, the company we work for says we can run 65 miles an hour.
Okay. So let's log at 63 miles an hour.
Okay.
Because there's no way you can. Why is there no way you can log 65 miles?
Let me get through, please, for the love of God. Tell him to shut up, everybody, please. All right, 65 miles an hour is the high speed we can run, so let's go 63. That gives us a reasonable average. All right, 70 hours. How much is 63 miles an hour at 70 hours?
4,410 miles.
Okay. Now we have to, according to
that's it.
According to our company, we have to log unload time, fuel time, and load time. So if you load a load going to Shaky, let's say 15 minutes for that. Say 15 minutes for fuel, and let's